Hello, everyone out there in YouTube world, Facebook world, social media world, Twitter world. I don't know, wherever the hell you watch these things from. Welcome to another edition of Musings with MGL. I'm your host, as always, MGL. And as always, click the subscribe button, click the bell button for notifications. If you like what I have to say, comment, share, all that kind of stuff. Give it a thumbs up. It really helps grow the channel. So I appreciate everybody who subscribes and watches my musings. Today's episode, I'm going to tackle another subject that's been all over the media these days, and that's Portland, Oregon. So more specifically, I'll talk a little bit about the big incident that everybody's talking about that happened over the weekend, where they're having another big, well, it's the same protest. Essentially, I think they're up to 80-something days straight now that they've been doing this craziness in Portland and protesting. And there was an incident over the weekend where a truck kind of went into the protest, not like try to drive them over or attack them or anything. The people in the truck state that there was a transgender woman in this crowd who was being attacked, and they kind of went in there to try and protect her. And there's video all over the place. Everybody's seen it. It's playing on all the TV shows and news channels and YouTube videos, etc. It's all over the place. And this guy goes in there, and you see him get yanked out of his truck, and you see him get brutally beaten and knocked unconscious and left for dead, basically laying in the middle of the street. No cops are around, as always, and these people are just running wild, and they beat the crap out of this guy and leave him there in the street. Thankfully, it looks like he's going to be okay. He was unconscious and in a coma, I think, for a while, but it looks like he's recovered. They've actually started a GoFundMe account for the guy. I think it's up to like $100,000 or something at this point, so thankfully, it looks like he's going to be okay, and things are going. They know who the suspect is. His picture's all over the place now, and the cops are urging him to turn himself in. Like, that guy's going to turn himself in. And then they're tracking him down and asking for people to help. I'm not sure if the people in Portland are going to help because, I don't know, it sounds like they're okay with this kind of stuff, quite frankly. I mean, when you have 80-something days of these protests, these anarchy things happening in a major city like that, and nothing's happening to stop it. The mayor's not doing anything to stop it. The governor's not doing anything to stop it. Law enforcement would probably like to do something to stop it, but their hands are tied by the people I just mentioned, by the people who are running the city. And there's no end in sight. You would think that after there was an incident like this that happened, that somebody may step up and do something, that maybe some of the leaders will finally realize, look, this is crazy, we need to do something about this, but they're not going to. Well, I didn't even think that would happen. I was going to say, short of somebody getting murdered, it's not going to stop. But I think that even if this guy had died, they'd still be out there protesting, and nobody would stop it because they would just consider it to be, well, it's a small few. And that's what we always hear when people are talking about this, when people who support these type of movements or riots, whatever you want to call them. It's always, look, it's otherwise peaceful. It's only a small percentage. You guys are just taking these odd incidents and trying to blow them up and inflate them into something more than it is, and taint the whole movement that's just trying to fix all these problems we have in America. That argument doesn't go anywhere with me, because I disagree with their proportions at this point. I do believe that in the beginning of this, you did have the vast majority of people were peaceful and were trying to protest the right way to effectuate change, and you did have a very small percentage of people who were committing the violence and doing crazy stuff. Somewhere in the last month or so, I believe the proportions have switched, and now you don't have the vast majority doing the peaceful protest and only a small group doing the craziness. What you have now is the vast majority doing the craziest and the smaller amount protesting, because you don't see the type of George Floyd style protests that you saw in the beginning, with large crowds just marching down the street, mostly again being peaceful, and then you have the odd people run off into the area and burglarize or vandalize and rob a store or whatever. You're always going to have that kind of stuff when you have large groups like that, to some extent. Obviously, when we have a large group in the Second Amendment community or Tea Parties, you don't see that kind of stuff. But I think in general, when you get thousands of people in one spot, there's always going to be a couple idiots that are going to cause problems. But you don't see those anymore. Okay, those aren't the protests you see anymore. You don't see the people marching in large crowds with flags down a main street to the courthouse, to the sheriff's department or the police department, and holding up pictures of, George Floyd or whoever they wanted to hold up pictures of. Like, you don't see those anymore. If they still existed, trust me, the media would be showing you those images and trying to juxtapose them with the images of people getting beat down in the street. But you're not seeing those images anymore. There are no more videos or news coverages of people just walking down the street chanting, no justice, no peace, or remember, George Floyd or whatever. You don't see those typical kind of peaceful American First Amendment protest. The only video that you see anymore are people trying to light things on fire, people spray painting things, people beating up people blocking traffic, people causing fights. That's all you see anymore. So I think it's clear from what's going on out there that the ratio has turned. We no longer have mostly peaceful with a few idiots. We have mostly idiots with maybe a few peaceful. I mean, I don't see the peaceful protests anymore. And people can tell me, well, that's just because they're not showing them anymore. Well, I disagree, because knowing the way the media is in this country, if they could show that this was still a peaceful, organized movement for change, they would be showing it. But the only thing that they can show is crazy anarchy for change, but it's change that dismantles everything and makes it crazy, okay? So that's my general opinion about what's happening in Portland and some of these other cities, that the ratios have turned. In this particular case, as it relates to us that carry in the Second Amendment community, that we focus on self-defense, look, this is a classic case of situational awareness, I think. I mean, I'm not going to try and blame the guy for being there, but look, if you live in Portland, you know that that's the area where the crazy stuff is going on, because they are generally located in one area. They're not just roaming through every street in the city. So for situational awareness purposes, you wouldn't go to that area. You would avoid it. If you did go to that area, you would try and avoid inserting yourself in the middle of an issue. Now, I understand, he's saying that he was trying to help out this transgender woman and try and protect them, which I find it ironic that if it's true that a transgender woman was being attacked by these people, like, these people are generally what most people would consider far left. So you think that they would be in support of, transgender women. So the fact that they're actually attacking one, it makes it clear to me that they don't have an agenda. They're just anarchists, for lack of a better term. But I understand, again, he was trying to help the person out, but that's where your situational awareness comes in. It's hard. You can't help somebody out if you get yourself beat up. So sometimes you just got to make decisions that you got to make. And then if you do go in a situation like that, to go in there unarmed without the proper people, the proper equipment to protect yourself and the people with you that's not really smart either. So my political commentary or my musings about the topic is that these people are nuts, that this is a crazy group of people who just aren't going to stop, and the politicians who have the authority to stop it don't want to for various political reasons. You can put me in that camp of people who feel that this is all tied to the election coming up in November. However, from a Second Amendment advocate, and that's what this channel is about, and a self-defense kind of person, I think this is a clear situation of situational awareness. We are trained not to put ourselves in those situations to avoid conflict. We are trained, if you do have to put yourself in that situation, or you just find yourself in that situation, you got to be able to get out of it somehow. You got to know that you got to have your right firearms. You got to have your right self-defense techniques. I mean, most of us in this community would not find ourselves in the middle of a riot in downtown Portland getting dragged out of a car and beaten up because we think several steps ahead to make sure that we avoid a situation like that, okay? So again, I'm not blaming the victim. I'm using this as a learning tool for those of us who want to practice that type of situational awareness and self-defense and protecting ourselves and our family. This is a classic case of what not to do when you find yourself in situations like that. It's probably a good thing in the long run that the guy didn't try and fight back after he started getting beaten up, because then they would have just kept beating him up. I mean, getting knocked out may have been, it sounds weird to say, but the best thing that happened to that guy, because at least after he got knocked out, they left him alone, and then eventually paramedics were able to come in there and get him. If he had started swinging and started fighting, they probably would have continued to fight. They would have escalated it, used weapons, and he probably would have turned up murdered. But then again, and it would have been way more tragic, but it wouldn't have changed anything because these people are not worried about they're not worried about that. They're interested in something else. But that's my take on Portland. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of your situation. Please practice safe situational awareness. Make sure you don't find yourself in those situations. If you do, make sure you have the right tools that you need to protect yourself, and then protect yourself, if you can. But this situation, thankfully, right now is only contained to a few of the major cities, and those of us who are really smart know not to live in major cities, because there's all kinds of problems with living in major cities, especially major left-wing style cities where they won't even let you have a gun to protect yourself, but yet they want to defund the police and let rioters run crazy in their city while telling you can't have a gun. So those are cities that people should not be living in. So if you are a true libertarian-minded, conservative, Second Amendment constitutionalist like myself, don't live in those kind of cities, because they're crap. So that's it for today. Again, as always, thanks for watching. Please continue to watch. Give me a like, give me a share, give me a subscribe, and stay safe, stay healthy, stay open if you can. Lockdowns are still going on. But as always, as this situation shows you, you need to carry on.